up, boys and girls? Leland Snyder. I'm back to break down some more League of Legends today. There is no EU Masters. The round robin part two will be coming back on Wednesday of next week, but there is a four-game CBLOL slate that is the Brazilian League. Today is the last day of the regular season for CBLOL, so I think context is huge today. I actually just need to give a little disclaimer to start off. I watched a video from a content provider on YouTube previewing this slate, and literally all they did was go through the odds and kill totals and make a bunch of recommendations based off that alone. That is just egregious, particularly given that this is the last day of the regular season and different teams have different playoff implications. So anyway, just be careful who you get your content from, and even when you are getting it from somebody you think is reliable, just be skeptical if some piece of data or something they say doesn't sound right. Just check it yourself. You can never be sure, especially if you're playing a good amount of money every day and trying to win. So anyway, like I said, I want to start with the context here. It's the last day of the regular season. There's 8 teams. Only 4 make the playoffs. These are the current standings. So Vivo and Flamengo are locked into the 1 and 2 seeds. And then the next 4 teams here are all 10 and 10 and fighting for the last 2 slots to get into the playoffs. So that's big. Now, with that out of the way, we can take a quick peek at the odds. Prodigy is the biggest favorite at minus 245. Pain Gaming and Furia is essentially a coin flip. Both teams less than even money. Keyed minus 155 favorite, not huge. And then finally Flamengo, a minus 195 favorite. So a pretty good size favorite right there. Let's go to the notes here. So, as I said, it's the final day of the regular season. Only 4 teams are going to make it in. Something else interesting that I came across is this league is a 3-round round robin, meaning each team plays every other team 3 times for a total of 21 games. So something that was interesting is at this point, when these teams are playing each other for the 3rd time, the team with the head-to-head advantage in the previous matches gets to choose their side. If it was split 1-1, then the team that won in the fastest time gets to choose their side. If you are familiar with League of Legends, and I'm still learning myself, during certain splits, the blue side does tend to win more than the red side, and that has been true during this split for CBLOL, and there are statistics backing this up. So what I did here was I went through and I highlighted the team that has their choice of side. I'm assuming they're going to choose blue because it's more advantageous. So Flamengo has the choice, Kaboom has the choice, Prodigy has the choice, and Furia has the choice. Before we get into each game, I'm just going to go to my spreadsheet here. As far as totals, by the way, this first column here, I averaged each team's kills plus deaths to kind of get an idea of what their average pace would be when you combine them. And then I got the totals from Pinnacle here for kills in each match. And this actually aligns nicely. It's in the same order as the average kills plus deaths are. There's been 20 games of data, so that makes a lot of sense. Obviously, the game that stands out as the slowest is this Prodigy Gaming versus Furia match, and that may just be a full avoid for me. So both of these teams are fighting for a playoff spot. They split their season series 1-1, and they were super slow matches. Pain won 7-1, and then Furia won 9-8. So especially in a league where other teams like Flamingo and Vivo are getting upwards of 16, 17 kills a game with this type of pace is just not going to cut it for cash or GPP. So I'm probably going to avoid this one. If I did have to take a side, it would probably be Furia, just because they have the choice of side. They're 7-3 on blue, while Pain, if they get stuck with red, are 4-7. But again, I don't think the winner is going to have enough kills to do anything for you. If you want to use one of them in the team slot, I think that does make some sense. All right, now let's start with the high total games. The Vivo Key and Kaboom esports game is tied up there with the Flamingo and Ints game. Let's start with the Flamingo and Ints game. Flamingo averaging the second most kills over the course of the season, but they do have the highest implied team kill total at 17.5. But I think there are a couple things to consider here. The first is that Flamingo is already qualified, so they don't have a ton to play for, but Ints cannot get to the playoffs, so they don't have anything to play for. So it could be one of those unpredictable matches. If we're looking at the history here, Flamingo 2-0 versus Ints on the season, a 21-15 victory, and then a 16-8 victory. Flamingo does have the choice of side here. They're 8-4 on blue. Ints pretty poor, 3-6 on red. So I think there is definitely some merit in going with Flamingo here. It could be a game where they kind of mess around and there's a ton of kills. But again, there is an element of unpredictability just because neither team really has anything to play for here. Okay, the Vivo game is the next game. It's tied with a 29.5 total. This one's really interesting for me because Vivo is locked into their spot, so they don't necessarily have anything to play for. Kaboom, on the other hand, needs a win here to advance to the playoffs. During the regular season, it was a 1-1 split. There was a 25-13 win for Vivo and then a 30-11 win for Kaboom. The thing I like about that is both of those were super high kill totals. Both teams are actually playing pretty well right now. Vivo 4-2 over the last 6. Kaboom 5-1, and they've won 5 straight. Perhaps the deciding factor here is that Kaboom has something to play for, and they have the choice to side where they're 7-2 on blue. Vivo basically just 500 on red. So even though Vivo is the favorite per the books right now, I think Kaboom could make an interesting pivot in a match that should have a high kill total regardless of who wins. So I do like targeting that match. All right, the remaining match we haven't discussed is the Prodigy Redemption match. This is coming just under at a 28.5 total. Prodigy does have a 16.5 kill team total, which is tied with Vivo, so there's still some implied upside there. Prodigy, not a super high kill team on the season, 13.7, but their opponent Redemption dies the most in the league at 16.2, so that is encouraging. This is another match where Redemption has nothing to play for and Prodigy needs this to get to the playoffs. So I think it does have a nature of predictability there. We know that Prodigy is going to put their best foot forward and try to win this match. On the season, Prodigy 2-0 versus Redemption, 19-11, 16-9. Not super high kill totals, but pretty solid. So it is a game worth looking at. Prodigy does have the pick inside. They're 7-2 on blue, Redemption 3-6 on red. So again, I do like that advantage for Prodigy. So that kind of wraps up the breakdown of the slate. One other thing I would mention is a number of these teams have used subs on the season, so be careful. I made some notes here just on the teams that I'm looking at targeting. Flamingo has 2 subs listed on DraftKings. JoJo has been the starter for the last 8 matches, so I would expect him to be the starter here. I would recommend following these teams on Twitter. Flamingo did put out their starters before the match yesterday. And then Vivo has 2 junglers listed on DK. Grell has been the starter all season, but then last match, I don't know how to say this guy's name. I'm just going to say Chaos. He started kind of out of nowhere, so I think it's possible that he remains in there, and perhaps that has something to do with the fact that Vivo already has a playoff spot locked up, so that's just something to keep in mind. All right, well, that'll do it. As a quick recap, I'm probably going to avoid that Prodigy Furia match, and then I think there's potential value in the other 3 matches for upside, as discussed. I will probably be back on Tuesday with a video previewing the EU Masters second portion of the round robin starting up on Wednesday. But until then, good luck and hope you win some money.